Sylvester Stallone sat comfortably in a chair in the studio, subtly nervous before the interview. He had been in front of cameras many times before, but this time felt different. His words were important not only for his fans, but for those who believed in the power of spirit and faith. The journalist, a young woman with a serious expression, turned on the camera and looked at Stallone with a smile. "Sylvester, thank you for taking the time for this interview. You've probably gotten used to questions like these, but perhaps there's one that feels particularly relevant today. Have you ever thought about God? And how does he influence your life?" He slightly tilted his head, his gaze becoming serious. Sylvester noticed how the camera captured every movement, every wrinkle on his face, as if he was ready to share something real, something few expected. "You know, I've never hidden the fact that my life has been filled with hardships," he began, taking a slight breath. "A lot of people see me as a strong man, a fighter, a hero. But very few know that each of us, even those who seem invincible, need the support of something greater than ourselves." The journalist listened carefully, taking notes, but there was curiosity in her eyes that quickly turned into open astonishment. "Are you talking about God?" she asked, her voice softening. "How did this become part of your life?" Sylvester slowly smiled and looked at the camera. "For me, it was a matter of faith. I've gone through things I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies, but it was through faith that I found the strength to keep going. And I don't just mean prayers or rituals, although they're important too. I'm talking about accepting yourself as you are and knowing that your actions matter not only for you, but for others as well." He paused, gauging her reaction. "I felt how faith helped me become a better person, not just strong and tough on the outside. It's more than just words. It's about feeling peace and hope, even in the hardest moments." The journalist listened intently, her gaze lingering on his face. She could see that his words came from deep within, and she could feel how important this conversation was for him. She asked another question, hoping to learn more. "That's wonderful. But many people think faith and religion are private matters. Why was it important for you to step forward and share this?" Sylvester thought for a moment, his face becoming serious, but there was a gleam in his eyes that he knew well. "It's not about making others believe the way I do. It's about showing people that we all need something greater than ourselves. And I want them to know, even when it seems like you're alone, you're really not." He looked at the journalist, her gaze becoming even more focused. "You're asking why I want to talk about this? I just want people to know that even in the darkest times, there's light. And faith is that light that often helps us get through the hardships. I know that many people, especially in today's world, question the belief in God," Sylvester continued, deeply contemplating. "They ask, why is it important? How will it help me in life? But in my opinion, it all comes down to the fact that faith gives meaning, even in moments when you see no way out." He paused, as if trying to formulate his thoughts. The journalist listened attentively, understanding that this wasn't just another speech, but real depth coming from someone who had endured many trials. "I, like many, have faced moments when everything seemed hopeless," he continued. "My career, my health, my personal life, all of it has gone through different crises. And many times I asked myself, why did this happen to me? And in those moments, when I was at my breaking point, faith became what helped me see possibilities, even when everyone around me thought there were none." He looked at the journalist again, her eyes softened. "I remember when I was filming one of my movies, I was mentally and physically exhausted. I felt like I couldn't continue, like I couldn't handle the pressure. But it was in those moments that I turned to God as a last hope. I prayed not for fame or success, but for the strength to endure, to be the person I wanted to be." Sylvester took a brief pause, as if diving deeper into his memories. "And here's what I realized. Faith is not just about asking for something for yourself. It teaches us to believe that we are not alone, that there is something greater with a plan for us, even when we don't understand it. And even when it seems like you're alone, in that moment when you simply turn to God, you feel that there's someone there supporting you. And that gives you the strength to keep going. He looked out the window, as if searching for confirmation of his words. People often say that faith is weakness. But I'll tell you this, in reality it's strength. It's the strength that helps you rise when everyone else has given up. It's the strength that helps you hold on to yourself when the world around you is falling apart. And I'm certain, without faith, I wouldn't have become the person I am today. The journalist sat there, her gaze fixed on him, processing the words he had just said. She felt how deeply he felt about the subject, and even in her own heart, something shifted. So, it seems that faith helped you not only in your career, but in your personal life as well, right? She asked, trying to uncover more. Sylvester nodded. Yes, exactly. And there's another important thing. Faith helps you find meaning in our relationships, in family, in friendship. Each of us has an inner struggle. We all have our own demons, our own problems. But faith in God gives you the understanding that even when you don't know why all of this is happening, you still have a chance to change yourself, to change your surroundings. He lifted his gaze to the camera and added, faith doesn't make you perfect, but it gives you the chance to become a better person. And even if you can't find the answers to all your questions, you know that there's a possibility, and that's already a huge advantage in this world. Sylvester, you recently mentioned that faith helps you become a better person. That's a very interesting thought. But, to be honest, many people who don't have such deep faith also work on themselves and try to become better. What do you think specifically distinguishes those who believe in God from those who do it on their own? Sylvester paused, his gaze becoming serious. That's an important question. I think it's not just about becoming better. It's about whether you have inner support. When you try to change yourself on your own, it can be very hard because you often hit the walls of your own limitations, fears, and doubts. And without that support, without deep faith, it's sometimes very difficult not to break. He took a pause, thinking about what to say next. But when you have faith, when you know that there is something greater than yourself, it gives you the strength to move forward, even when everything seems hopeless. And that doesn't mean you become flawless or perfect. It just means that you begin to see the world differently. You begin to act with a deeper purpose, with a greater understanding that your path matters. The journalist listened carefully again, trying to understand how exactly faith affects Sylvester in his everyday life. How does this affect your relationships with others? You mentioned earlier that faith helps you become better in relationships. How do you experience this practically? Sylvester paused for a moment, as if recalling moments from the past. Well, relationships are always a challenge, he said, smiling slightly, with God and without Him. But faith allows you to look at other people with more patience and understanding. Sometimes we all make mistakes. Sometimes we hurt the ones we love, without even realizing it. And this is where faith helps me be a better husband, father, and friend. He paused again, his face reflecting distant memories. I remember when I became a father. That was the moment I realized how important it is to not just be physically present, but emotionally available. And faith gave me the understanding that true strength isn't just about being firm, but also about being soft, being open to the people you love. He looked directly into the journalist's eyes, as if trying to convey all the experience he had gone through. My faith helped me understand that sometimes you need to let go of control. That was very hard for me, because I've always been someone who wants to control everything. But faith teaches you that there are moments when you need to trust. And it's this that allows me to be more present in the lives of my loved ones, to be someone who can support and listen, not just manage the situation. The journalist nodded, understanding that Sylvester was revealing important aspects of his internal transformation through faith. So, it seems that faith helped you both in your personal life and in your profession, giving you the strength to overcome difficulties and become better in relationships. But is there anything you would recommend to those who are unsure whether they should believe?" Sylvester smiled, relaxing slightly. "I think everyone should find their own path. I'm not saying everyone has to believe in God the way I do. But if there is even the smallest bit of doubt, even the tiniest spark of hope, I would advise people to turn to it. Because faith can be what changes your life for the better. It gives you depth, gives you the understanding that you're not alone. And that's already a huge gift." He looked away, as if preparing to conclude the conversation. "And most importantly, faith teaches you to be grateful for what you have. It teaches you to be strong, even when it seems like you're on the edge. And when you begin to see life in that light, it truly becomes more full and meaningful." The journalist made a few notes, carefully observing Sylvester. She felt that this interview was not just a conversation about faith, but a true revelation that could help many people see a new path in their lives. "You speak so warmly and confidently about faith. It's truly inspiring," she said, smiling slightly. "But still, do you think it's possible to find this inner peace and strength without religion? Or is it just a personal path that opened up for you?" Sylvester paused, looking at her intently. "Probably, it's very personal. I think everyone is looking for their own source of strength. And for some, it might be something else, not necessarily religion. Maybe it's inner wisdom that comes through experience, through love for others, through nature or art. It's important to understand that everyone has the right to their own path, and what works for me doesn't necessarily work for someone else." He looked at the journalist, his expression softening. "But I believe that faith in something greater than ourselves gives people a sense that their life has purpose. It gives them the strength to overcome difficulties and feel that not everything depends on us. And perhaps that's exactly what gives life meaning." The journalist nodded, reflecting on his words. "These are very profound thoughts, Sylvester. It seems you've found a way to live in harmony with yourself and the world around you. What would you wish for our readers who might not have found their path yet?" Sylvester smiled, his gaze warm and calm. "I would say, don't be afraid to search. Search for meaning. Search for what makes you happy. Search for what gives you strength. And even if you don't find it right away, don't give up. Because the journey, even if it's not easy, is worth taking." The journalist thanked Sylvester for his openness and the depth of his words. She closed her notebook, ready to finish the conversation. "Thank you for such an open and meaningful dialogue. This has truly been a gift for our readers." Sylvester smiled, nodding silently. "Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts. I hope it helps someone find their way." With these words, the interview ended, leaving a deep mark in the journalist's heart and, hopefully, in the hearts of those who will read this dialogue. The interview ended, but the atmosphere in the room remained unchanged, calm and thoughtful. The journalist gathered her things, glancing at Sylvester, who had become calm and contemplative again. She understood that there was more in his words than just advice or thoughts from a famous person. It was a profound truth that Sylvester had found on his journey, one that could likely change the lives of those who listened. "Thank you again," she said, rising from her seat. "You are a true example of how important it is to never stop on the path to oneself. I hope your words will resonate with many. I just want people to understand. Faith, like love, has no boundaries. It can be different for everyone, but it is a force that can change lives," Sylvester replied, slightly tilting his head, as if searching for answers within himself once more. The journalist left the room, still deeply reflecting on his words. She felt that the interview was not just part of her job, but an opportunity to see the inner world of a person who had gone through many hardships and had not lost faith. She realized that this interview would be something more than just an article. It would be a story about the strength of spirit, about how one can not only overcome their problems, but also find meaning in difficult situations. Meanwhile, Sylvester remained alone, immersed in his thoughts. He knew that his path to faith had not been straightforward. He had gone through many trials and tough moments, but in each one, he found new wisdom, new depth in his understanding of the world. And now, as he could share his experience, he felt that he had found new meaning. Looking at the clock, he smiled, not in a hurry. Faith can be found in the most unexpected places and in the simplest things. And perhaps this peace he felt was the true gift he had been searching for all his life.